What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Hope Shot Live Addiction to Success. Um, if you guys are just jumping on and say what's up, let us know you're here. Please share this out. You never know who might help. We are having some technical difficulties at the moment, but that's okay. We go live anyways. We are waiting for our speaker for tonight. We have Mark, and I am working out the technical difficulties as we speak. But while we do that, like I said, comment, say what's up, share this out. Ooh, all right. So let's see the clarity statement. Oh man, don't you love technical difficulties? It's always fun. Get your heart racing. So here's the Hope Shot clarity statement. We here at the Hope Shot are a group of people in recovery spreading inspiration. We come from all different walks of life and pathways of recovery. Our verbiage may be different at times, but we all have one thing in common: recovery as a lifestyle. We support all pathways of recovery. It doesn't matter how you get from A to Z, just get there. Thank you for being a part of our family. And I am going to say what's up. Some people, our guest speaker has arrived in the building. What's up, Jamie? Thank you for sharing. Let's see if I can get this. There we go. Let's see. We got Dustin in the house. Best hour of the week shared. Appreciate you, Dustin. Thank you for being here. We got Ali. Happy Wednesday to you too. Amanda. We are doing well. I hope you're doing well tonight too. Let's see. We got Verna. Thank you so much. You're always in the house, freaking sharing our lives. And we got Crystals from Athens, Tennessee watching. Yeah. So if you guys didn't know, we have a sign-up sheet to share your story. If you guys want to share it, it's important that we share it, because we only keep what we have by giving it away. It helps you, man. You don't know what it does for a person to share your story and get it out there and put your stuff out there. Because I remember, and I just had this conversation with somebody yesterday. I was sharing about my, when my stuff got brought to the light by somebody else, not my own doing, how freeing it was to actually talk about it and put it out there to the universe and let it be known. It literally sets you free. So if you guys want to sign up, I'm going to put in the link in the comments soon. But this is this dude, Mark. He is in Arizona. So the power of the internet. And he is going to share his story. He signed up, man. And I reached out to him. And so I'm going to let him tell yours. I can't even talk. Let him share his story. So I'm going to get him on. Give me 1 second. And boom, there he is. What's up, Mark?
What's going on? How is everybody?
Good, man. Good. I'm so glad to see you. A little scare for a minute with that technical difficulties.
Right. I don't know what went on. That's crazy.
I don't know. It was working perfectly. Everything was great. It's only because we're about to go live. That's the only reason.
Right. It's like my phone got butterflies for me.
Well, I'm gonna give it over to you, man. You can share awesome. Away. So the floor is yours.
Great, thanks. My name's Mark. My sobriety date's September 16th, 2020. I was born in Granite City, Illinois. I had one sister, one brother, and my parents were split up most of my life. I was pretty much raised in an atmosphere of, drugs and alcohol and stuff like that all my life. So growing up, I remember, parties going on at my mom's house. I was always seeing different dudes coming in and out. They were always having keg parties. So I caught myself being real young, drinking out of the keg. And, and that was my lifestyle. So, I was, my parents' stuff didn't really, they fed us, we had food in the house, but I helped myself. So, I was a bigger kid growing up. So I was always going through the turmoil of, being made fun of and all this stuff. And I couldn't fit in with everybody else because everybody had money or the BK British Knight shoes, or the stuff that was hip back in that day. I remember my brother was a real big role model for me growing up because he lived with my our grandparents, and so he had a little better stable lifestyle going on, and he grew up, you know, a little better atmosphere environment than I did. So there was times where I was hungry or needed some food. My brother would bike on his bicycle to me, a couple miles to bring me some food. Me and my sister, we lived together for half our lives growing up. uh we got into trouble, got caught smoking cigarettes when we was little, and doing the dumb stuff that kids do and when they ain't parented. And so time goes on. My mom moves to Missouri. My dad stays in Illinois. This summer I was 8 years old, and I was staying at my dad's for the summer. And my dad would always bar hop. I grew up in bars. My first job was in a bar. And so these are the things that I was getting used to. This seeing it growing up, I thought this was the right thing to do because I seen my mom had friends, my dad had friends, and everything else, and that's all I wanted was a bunch of friends. So I stayed with my dad for majority of the summer, and we was going bar hopping one night. We got into it, made it back to the house. I told him I hated him, and I took off, ran away. I called my grandma. My grandma came and got me. She ended up sending me back to Missouri, and where my mom was. And a week later, uh, my mom got the phone call that my dad had passed away. He had come home from a bar that night, I guess, and lit a cigarette on the stove and passed out with it in the bed that I was sleeping in, and it smothered. Well, this guy showed up the next day to pick him up for work. Uh, his door, the keys were in his door, and he beat on the door. Nobody answered, and he opened it up, and he couldn't see in there. It was full of smoke. And so by the time he made it to the car to get his phone to call 911, the house just blew up in flames and everything else. So now I'm dealing with all this, at a young age. I just lost my dad. Uh, the last thing I said to him was I hated him. It was kicking in that I'll never see him again. So now I really started getting rebellious against my parent or my mom and my stepdad. Started doing a lot more things than what I wanted to do. I was about 9 years old, just running and gunning. Like, I remember stealing my parents' food stamps. This was back in the day when it was, paper money, paper food stamps, stealing them and going to the school and buying donuts and stuff for the class to try to make friends. Well, a few years later, moving on, threw a birthday party, and some friends came over, and they were giving me these bags of grass, but they were trying to tell me it was marijuana. So I was like, well, cool, let's smoke it. So I was smoking grass, for real grass. But everybody thought I was cool, so I started making some friends. Uh, Another year goes by, then my friends started giving me real weed, so I started smoking real weed, and then I started eating, getting fatter and fatter, and I just wasn't taking care of myself. I was a long, scruffy type. Um, Listen to Headbangers music, ACD, Metallica, all that stuff, and I thought I was the shit. Then I just was a lost cause for real. Did what I want when I wanted, 11, 12 years old. Moving on, stuff started. I started meeting different people and everything else, and I met this guy or kid that come over and played PlayStation with me all the time, and that's when I did my first line of meth. Started doing my meth. I started losing weight. I started seeing things a fat kid never seen before, and I liked it. And I started, making more friends now. Started fighting with my mom, my stepdad, and things. I thought my life was like on top of the world. You know, I just everything was going straight for me. I thought until um, I ended up getting into it with my mom real bad. She ended up kicking me out, so I had no place to go, and so I ended up running around with my meth dealer, and I quit hanging out with all my weed friends, and I started doing big things. My weed dealer had me go, or my meth dealer had me go, you know, watch his cook, make sure his cook wasn't stealing anything from him when he was cooking his stuff. And I did that for a while before I told my meth dealer that he was stealing from him. And after that, my meth dealer was worried about what he's going to do now because now he don't have a cook. And I was like, hey, I'm sorry it took so long for me to tell you about it, but I wanted to make sure I could do it. So I watched him long enough until I figured I could make dope myself, and that's what happened. So I started making dope. I started buying cars, trailers. We used to fix up trailers, and I thought I was the shit. Everything was going sweet, and then I end up getting arrested, going to juvie, um, looking at 15 years to life. And I still did what I did. I still got high. Still didn't deter me from, stopping. I ended up going to juvie during my court cases. I tried to have sex in the courtroom because I thought that I was young. I thought I was going to prison for life. So I tried to get with a girl in the courtroom. They gave me a year contempt of court. I did the year contempt in Missouri. When you get contempt of court, they make you do the full year before you start your cases again. So I did that, went back to court after the year, and I'm still young and dumb, on top of the world. So I tried to have sex again in the courtroom, and that was it. I did another year in juvie, and they ended up trying me as an adult when I did my case. So I ended up pleading out to a 20-year sentence. I went to the Missouri Department of Corrections, did 20 years, and you'd think, that's 20 years of my life. Would think that I'd stop then, but no. I was still young and dumb, and when I went to prison, I was scared. They say only thing you can do is fight or be somebody else's lady, and that wasn't me. So I did what I knew best. I slung dope. I figured out a way to get drugs into the institution, and I started selling drugs in the institution. I made friends in there, and because that was what my lifestyle. Whatever I had to do to make a friend or make you like me, that's what I was going to do. If I had to lie to you, manipulate you, or whatever, that's what I was doing. And so that's what I did and I ended up doing the full 20. And you would think that I'd want to quit drugs after losing 20 years. Like I'm 43 now. I've never been to a funeral, but there's people that's died when I was locked up. I didn't get a chance to go to their funeral. I didn't get a chance to go to my dad's funeral because I just couldn't. But so anyway, before I got out, I went up for parole the first time, and they was all like, well, we need to talk to you about your release date. I was like, release date? No, you're closing my file because when I get out this gate by 8, I'm going to have a spoon in my hand by noon, and I'm not coming back through all this process. So they ended up closing my case out. I did the 20. I got out, and I had it down. I had it licked. I was going to do the same thing I did before, but better. I knew how I wasn't going to get caught. So I moved to Missouri or St. Louis, Missouri. I ended up getting a job on the river. And, because my stepdad worked out there, my brother-in-law worked out there. So they got me a job on the river, and it was cool. I worked 7 days on and 7 days off. So what I would do is my first 4 days off on my 7, I'd get high, get high and party for 4. And I'd quit. And then by the time it was time to go back to work, I could pass the drug test because the Coast Guard could come on the boat anytime and do a drug test on you. So I did that for some time. I ended up getting a loft in downtown St. Louis, and my landlord, his son, lived on the loft below, and I ended up running with his son on my off days, and he was addicted to heroin. So I was like, wow, what's that like? I've never done it. So I ended up doing heroin. Uh, Ended up trying heroin. A week later, after I did heroin, I went with my stepdad, and we was in a car accident, and I ended up getting a settlement on it. It was like the 23 grand. And I ended up going and I blew all that on heroin in 2 years. So when I started coming bad off of it, I mean, I woke up in a bathtub twice, full of ice, nobody around. I woke up in the courtyard that I was staying at, butt naked in the middle of the little field there, not knowing how I got there. So, but the whole time I kept my job and I thought I was doing all right. So at this time, my parents and my brother-in-law, they lived about 40 miles from St. Louis. So what I did to kick it, I went. Nobody knew I was a heroin addict, but me. And so I wanted to get off of it. So I went down to my mom's house and stayed there for the first couple of days, and went back and forth to work from there. And then I went to my sister's house and then my brother's house. Finally, it got to the point where my people was like, "Man, why don't you just go home? You got apartment, you got a loft up there, dude. You're a bachelor. You're living it up, dude. Go up to your loft." And I was like, at this time, I was day 22 of, you know, quitting cold turkey. I was locked up on the floor, hands locked. The only thing I kept out of that addiction was my job. But, I told my brother-in-law, I was like, look, if I go back home, you're never going to see me again. I'm going to die. And he was like, "What do you mean? Who do you owe? What'd you get yourself into?" And I was like, "I'm addicted to heroin." And he's like, "No, you're not." I'm like, "Yes, yes, I do. I got to do 2 tenths just to get out of bed in the morning to take care of my morning wood." And it was crazy. And he's like, "No, I can't believe it." So anyway, so yeah, it took me 43 days. I completely quit doing heroin cold turkey, but I was still doing meth because that was my drug of choice, was meth. And so I went on and on. A couple of years later, I meet this girl. We ended up taking off. This was 2015. We go to Arizona. This girl that I met had 3 kids. She had her mother, her brother, her brother's wife, and a kid, and we all come to Arizona together. And the thing about it is, she didn't do no drugs. She was a normie. And so, I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to get this off. So we moved to Arizona. I ended up getting a job within 3 months. I was a supervisor, and I met this Mexican that lived across the street from me. And on the down low, because this is what I do, is meth. I got to find it. I'm going to figure it out no matter where I go. So I asked this Mexican, I'm like, "What's up on some meth?" And he's like, "Yeah, I got you." I give him $20. He brings me back stuff. Everything's going good for a while. I'm keeping it on the down low. I got little tinker projects going on, and nobody in the house knows that I'm doing it. Well, a couple months go on, then I get blown out of the water. They figured it out. I ended up getting kicked out in Arizona. I lost my job. Had no place to go. Didn't really know anybody because the only scene that I was in was, you know, my work and going back home to the family that I had then. And so here I am running the streets of Arizona. I end up meeting people. So what do I got to do? Since I don't know anybody, I got to start making friends, getting in there. So I started being a bully. I met a couple guys, and people owed them money. So I went and collected their money. I did whatever I had to do to make a name for myself. And I ended up meeting this girl named Danielle, which is my kids' mom now. I met her. We started hanging out. She ended up getting pregnant. We're kicking it. And then about 6 months into her pregnancy, she said, she's done signed rights over to 4 of her kids to the state of Arizona, that if she has a kid in Arizona, they're going to take it from us. So I'm like, no way, this is my first kid, I just know this is what's going to change my life, this kid. So I tell her, I'm like, all right, I'm going to go back to Missouri. I'll get my job on the river and I'll send for you and we'll have the baby in Missouri and then we'll come back. And she's like, all right. Well, she was addicted to meth also. So that's what I do. I go to Missouri. I send back for her. She comes to Missouri and we make this pact. All right, we're going to quit doing meth and everything for long enough to have the baby. And, it's a done deal. That's what we decided on. 9 months go on. And this is how messed up I am, right? My first kid, the one she's pregnant with, I was going to name him Wade Graham Constant, because this is my addiction mind. This is in my head, Wade Graham. Who would think to name their son Wade? I want to what? Wade Graham, right? You guys say it slowly and think about it, and you'll catch it after a minute. So my mom and them was all like, "You can't do that. You can't." I was like, "Why not? You didn't realize it until I pointed it out to you." And so, finally I was like, all right, well, fine. I'll give him my stepdad's name since he put up with this dysfunctional family for 30 years of his life. So we named my first son Jeffrey Wade Graham Constant, and that's his name on his birth certificate. And, half of my reasoning of thinking that was when, I didn't want to do dope all my life, but that's all I knew. So it's like I didn't have a fellowship or anything like that. I didn't have a sponsor. Nothing that I knew now. I didn't even have a God in my life then. But I knew I wanted to wipe my white picket fence. So anyway, Jeffrey was born and went through the process and everything, and we was getting ready to leave the hospital, and they told me this was in 2016. They told us we couldn't leave. I was like, what do you mean we can't leave? And well, I can't really tell you much right now, but wait in this room and somebody will be in to talk to you. So a couple of hours go on and I'm like, look, we're free to go. I'm leaving. And some security guards walked in and they was like, you can't go nowhere. Somebody will be here in a minute to talk to you. I'm like, what do you talk? What's going on? And she, the kid's mom's acting the same way and everything else. So finally this DCS worker comes in and she said the baby both tested positive for methane and amphetamine. And, I was true to it. I quit. I mean, I couldn't wait until Jeff got born because that was the plan. Go home, call my buddy, let's celebrate, let's get high, because that's all I wanted to do was smoke a bowl to celebrate the birth of my son. And so the DCS worker was like, okay, check this out. I need you to go in here and do a drug test for me. And I did come back. It came back negative. So they said, all right, we're going to send Jeffrey home with you. Under no circumstances can Jeff be left alone with the mother until we figure this stuff out. I'm like, okay. So we ended up going home. I'm holding off on that celebration. I'm like, let's wait and see what they say. They set a meeting to come to the house on May 4th and have a discussion and tell the kid's mom what she had to do. So I was like, May 5th, I'm getting high as soon as she gets out here. Well, May 4th comes, she shows up at the police. I ended up having they run my name and I had a 5-year-old traffic ticket warrant and it was a Friday. So they arrested me on this traffic ticket. And it was Friday. There's no judge. You ain't seen no judge or nothing on a Friday. So they take me to jail. So I have to sit all weekend until Monday to see a judge. So this leaves Jeff alone with the mother, and that's not happening. So DCS took my kid into custody, put him in a foster home. I'm losing it. I'm in the county jail thinking, man, I just turned 40 on May 4th. I'm sitting in a jail, lost my kid, and all I can think about is getting high. I get out that Monday morning. I'm like, I already know I'm going to have to go see somebody or talk to somebody about getting my kid back. So I go to the dope house. I end up getting high and everything else. And like that Friday, the DCS worker comes and drugs test me. I test positive for meth. And we end up having to do Taros and a bunch of treatment. I was like, all right, well, me and Danielle was getting into it. We still fighting because we wouldn't have, I was blaming her because we wouldn't have been in this if she wouldn't have got high. It was all her fault because she's one got high, and that was what my mind was telling me. It wasn't the fact that I couldn't wait to get high too, but anyway, so we ended up kissing and making up and doing what we had to do to get our son back, and it took us 7 months. As soon as we got our son back from DCS, we took off back to Arizona. As soon as we got to Arizona, first thing I did was get high. Rolling around town. We're living with her mom. We ended up rolling around and she ends up getting pregnant again. So now she's pregnant again. We have to go back to Missouri and we have my second son, Mark Jr. in 2017. And when he was born, he was clean. We didn't do no drugs. We didn't lose him. We had both our kids. We could do what we wanted to and everything else. So we came back to Arizona. Started getting drugs, getting high again. None of this, none of that detoured me from wanting to stop. I would stop long enough if I had to, not because I wanted to, it's because I had to, because we was going through another birth of my son. And so we ended up getting high, running amok. I'm running the streets of Arizona. We were living with her mom again. You know, I was just being an irresponsible dad. I thought I was being a good father by, making sure they had food and bathing them every day, but I was still running in the other room to take a hit every now and then. And it was crazy, man. I was just sick with it. And I put my kids in a lot of messed up situations. Um, 2016, end up getting on the metro to go to get a job. I end up getting busted with some meth on me. I end up going to jail. I plead out to probation. I get probation. And the whole time on probation, I'm getting high. I'm not wanting to quit. I end up being homeless. So I go into a homeless shelter with my kids. They end up finding us apartment. And in this apartment, I'm like, cool. So now I got to figure out how to pay rent. So I start selling drugs. They end up, well, finally, my probation officer showed up at my house and I was going through some domestic violence with my kid's mom. At the same time, all this happens. And so my probation officer was like, Mark, you haven't given me one piss test or anything. You need to do something or I'm going to violate you. So now I'm like, okay, well, I got to do something now because I can't go to jail because of my kids. So I go to Taros. I end up, going to an IOP treatment. And, even though I didn't want to quit, I still paid attention in class or in group. And some things started hitting and started touching, I don't know what it was. It just was things were just jumping out at me, like, making me look at things like, I'm not that super dad or that great dad that I think I am, because, if I got to wake up and feed my kids and then the first thing I do is go in the bathroom and smoke a bowl, that, it started going in my head. I started getting a guilty conscience. And a week later, my door was kicked in by Glendale, Arizona Police Department. And, they didn't find nothing in the house. But, I hadn't been clean but a week, like this was September 16th was my clean date. That was the last time I used. A week later, they raided me. But now I can look back at that and be like, that was my God intervening in my life. He knew that, he knew where my heart was at, my mind was at. He knew that I was right there at the line, the crossing over of sobriety and taking it. And I just needed that. I needed that wake up call from him to take my kids again. And they took both of them. And, my son was, you know, 3 years old, and he looked up at me when they were taking him. And, it was like that look was just crazy. It was like, he's like, Dad, where am I going? And, when they were walking with the police, and, so, and I started buckling down. I took, the only thing I had was my Harley at the time, and I took off on my bike. And, I was on the highway, and, everything was just running through my head, and I was trying to go everywhere but the dope house. But that was what my mind was telling me, to go to the dope house. But I wasn't going to the dope house. I was just rolling in circles. And so the next day I went to my group. I talked to my group leader, and I told him, look, I I'm weak right now. I don't know what to do. This class, 3-hour class twice a week, is not going to be enough for me. I don't have a home. I'm living on the streets, and I need something else. So I ended up going to a Maverick House. It was an inpatient treatment, and that's what I did. I went to the Maverick House. That was the first time I opened up the big book. I started reading the big book. Started going to in-house meetings, and learning about myself, and really buckling down. I didn't know where my kids were at. I hadn't had contact with anybody else, and I wasn't worried about it. I was worried about me at the time, trying to get straight. And now that I have 2 years sobriety, I can look back again and be like, that was it right there. If I wouldn't have focused on myself instead of doing it for my kids or everybody else, if I wouldn't have been doing it for me, I wouldn't be at where I am today. And so I get out of the Maverick House. Now it's like I don't still don't have nowhere to go. I still have my Harley. So I buckled down. I First things first, I try to figure out how I can get a hold of my kids. I'm riding down the street. I stop at the stop sign on my Harley, and this lady comes out. She's like flagging me down at the stop sign. So I pull over a little bit, and she hands me this paper, and I'm like, what's this? She goes, I think this is for you. And I don't even know this lady from Adam. And I open up this piece of paper, and it's got my name on it. It's like, Mark, I'm trying to get a hold of you. Here's my number. I'm the visiting coordinator with DCS, and I'm trying to get a hold of you so you can visit with your kids. And I'm like, the hair on the back of my neck standing up. I have goosebumps. I'm freaking out. I'm like, what the heck? How do you, who, I'm just and now being where I'm at in my recovery, I'm looking back, and I'm like, that was God. That was my higher power, because here I am. He's helping me with the stuff that I was worrying about. So I ended up going to, after the IOP, I ended up going to SOP, and it was another group. I ended up meeting this girl here, and she's like, you should come check these meetings out. I'm like, yeah, what meetings? And they're like, CMA, Crystal Meth Anonymous. I'm like, okay, I've never been to a meeting, but you're cute. Let's go try this. So I so I ended up going to the meeting. I actually sat there and listened to people, and it was like, it was wow. It wasn't like trying to go to sleep or anything like that. I could relate to him. Man, he was going fast. He wanted to do this, wanted girls, wanted this. And I'm like, so I left that meeting that night, and I'm like, wow, that was cool. I want to go to another one. So I ended up going to another one, and I seen this dude sharing his story, and I listened to him, and I'm like, man, this dude did prison time. He got clean in prison. He got out, got him a sponsor. He's like, I got to talk to this dude. So after talking to him after the meeting, I asked him to sponsor me. He was like, heck yeah. And during this whole time, I'm still fighting for my kids. I end up landing a job, making $8 an hour. It was right when COVID hit, and, beggars couldn't be choosers at the time. I was the next loser. I did prison time. I got tats from head to toe. So yeah, give me that job, because DCS said I had to have a job. Anything DCS said I had to do, I did, plus some. I ended up working my steps with my sponsor. Things were going great. My fellowship, I ended up, I was during my visits with DCS and my kids and stuff. I was getting overnight visits and 4 or 5 hour visits here and there. I was able to do everything. I was walking places with my kids, and somebody blessed me with a car. They called me up from the fellowship, and somebody from the fellowship and said, man, I see you're doing the damn thing. You're a single father of 2 boys, 5 and 6 years old, and dude, you're glowing. I'm peer support certified. I tell my story all the time, and I'm just blessed, man. My DCS case was closed December of last year. I now am a diesel mechanic. I make 20 something dollars an hour. I have my own home. I have a loving girlfriend that is great with the kids, and things are just amazing, man. As I work these steps and working with my sponsor, and I give myself to a higher power. I belong to a church now. The thought of using don't even I don't care if I have friends or not. I have my sobriety. Every day I wake up, I listen to motivational speeches. If there's something I could do that day to make myself better as a person, to better myself, everything else is gonna come. It's gonna fall into place. My God provides for me no matter what. um Recovery for me is just beautiful right now. One day at a time. And for anybody that's new in here, that's what I recommend, man. Find you a fellowship, whether if it's NACA, NA, whatever. Reach out, because no matter what you've done, I promise you, there's somebody else out there that's done it too or been in that position, and they found a way out. They found something that works. It may not work for you, and but there's somebody or somewhere else that has something. And and trying to think what else. That's all I can say. God is great.
Good
I
stuff,
thank,
Mark.
I appreciate you. Thanks for letting me be of service.
Of course, man. Thank you for your willingness to come on here and share your story, man. I think it's, shout out to all the single fathers out there, man.
Right.
Like, it's a tough job, man. Like, it is a single mother, single fathers, anybody that's single doing this deal, especially with this. I'm sorry, but in this day and age, man, you need two
Right.
incomes, man. It's hard, man. So my hat's off to you, man. I said that to you before, man, because it's hard to raise humans. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. It is. Yeah.
It's hard
And
enough
then on
raising
top of it,
yourself.
right. And then on top of that, nobody, I don't think I haven't heard it where recovery's easy. And then on top of that, you have parenting. So
Yeah.
it's like, as long as I give every anytime, when I walk to the store or I drive up to the grocery store to get a pack of cigarettes, I stop and I pray to God, please let me make it to the store and back, because I never know what's going to happen. Anytime I worry about anything, I got to give it to God and give it to my higher power. Whatever you may choose as your higher power, it works.
Yeah. Sometimes we like to hold on to it and fuck some shit up, but
Fuck it up. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
want to
that's
hold
what
on to this
sponsors are
shit.
for.
No.
Yeah.
Got a death
Yeah.
grip on it.
Yes, sir.
So dude, your son's name, man.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's like the craziness that we're like, man, it's a legit idea. It's the dumb
Right.
things,
Right.
and we're just insane. Like, really, dude. Like, in a right mind, we're like, man,
It was,
that's
yeah,
pretty
it was
dumb, man.
crazy, but in an essence, though, my thought behind it was, look, it was my first time, first son. Like, I don't know nothing. I was locked up for 20 years flat. I know nothing about parenting. I just know how I was treated and raised. So I wanted something different for that. So I was like, how am I going to know when to have this conversation? So I'm like, okay, well, when the kids start teasing him about his name, he's going to start getting curious. So then he's going to come, Dad, why'd you name me Wade Graham? And that's going to be like my little cue to have my father and son. Look, this is what I did, and this is, you know, I don't want you to do, but ultimately it's going to be your choice. But that was my thought behind it. And
Yeah.
it was cool. Wade Graham. Hey, just imagine the
Subliminal.
principal. I need a Wade Graham to the office, please.
Bro. it, it's kind of it's very creative, you know. I mean, it's good stuff.
Right.
You know, it's funny in our addiction, man. We think that we just like have it somewhat manageable as long as I'm making sure they're fed and they have diapers and like everything's taken care of. We're okay, even though we're
Right.
running around barely making it half the time and out of our freaking minds. I mean, dude, when I was in my addiction, I had everything was manageable for the most part. I thought it was manageable, but it was not manageable. Like
Right.
everything was a shit show, and I just covered it up with drugs and
Yep.
you know, it's funny that we have these like conversations with ourselves that are like, oh man, well, at least I'm not doing this. At least they're taking care of it, or at least they're, you know, or the yets or the whatevers, you know, until it comes to that point, and you're like, well, here it is, you know. I can't take care of them, let alone myself anymore.
Right. Well, we lived in a tent. We lived in a tent. Me and my two boys lived in a tent on the streets for months, and they loved it. And I thought it was cool. It was like me and the boys were camping. So I was like, I'm not being a piece of shit, Dad. Fuck no, my kids love this shit. We got a little hole in the ground. We roast some marshmallows and hot dogs. They're
Yeah,
fed.
it's
Let me run over here
vacation.
while they're roasting the shit and smoke my bowl and then run back. And it was all good,
Yeah,
but really
yeah.
wasn't. Yeah.
No, but that's that rest the
Stinking
rationalizing
thinking. Right.
rationalizing in our head, and we're like, yeah, man, we're camping. Eh,
Right.
you know,
Yep.
it's an extended vacation.
Right.
So and it's funny, man. We always talk about on here about the rescues. You know what I mean? Like we get rescued from ourselves. Like you in the IOP, you didn't really want to get you didn't want to get recovery. You didn't want to get clean. But
Right.
here you are, you know, getting put into these IOP programs because it's what you need to do, and then boom, some stuff starts clicking, and then
Right.
you start seeing yourself and like hearing these things, like, dude, that's me. And
Yep.
that's what's awesome about like that's why we do this, you know, share your story, because you start getting like, oh man, I relate to that like on a whole nother level. And it's like, man, if he could do it, I could do it, you know?
Right. Yep.
Yeah. So I think that's the coolest part of recovery, man, is giving away, man, and sharing it, you know, because we don't get on here and share it, man. Nobody's gonna know, you know.
Right. Right.
Uh, and that's one thing is like we're bred into this anonymous world, you know, and sometimes that's not always the best case, you know. We evolved as people to where it's not so much you know, sweep it on the rug kind of deal, you know what I mean? It needs to be
Right.
talked about even on a bigger scale. Um, let's see, man. I got some comments in here. You got some people on YouTube, I see. Um, let's see. We have Jessica James says, "So proud of you, Mark." We
Thank
got
you.
Lisa. We got Lisa says, "Patience definitely comes with blessings. Great work definitely comes with blessings. Hard work does pay off."
Yes.
We got Matt says, "Congratulations, Mark." We got man, I'm gonna mess up that name. I'm sorry. Ev, how do you say that, Tiffany? You don't know? Oh, you don't say it? I'm
I
sorry. How do you say it?
Evangeline. I don't know.
Evangeline. I'm sorry, I'm bad with names. She says
Right.
congrats, no matter what.
Thank
We
you.
got Tiffany, which is my wife, and she says congratulations, man. The gifts of recovery and breaking a cycle for your boys
Yeah.
to have
Yeah.
you for life.
Right.
We got Raylene. What's up, Raylene? She says congratulations. Thanks for sharing. God is good. We got Dustin says, I always find it amazing when I look back and see all the ways God was working in my life, and I was completely oblivious to it
Yes.
in the moment.
Right.
Let's see. We got Amanda. Thank you, Mark C, for sharing such an inspirational testimony.
You're welcome.
We got Dominica says, yes, King.
Yeah.
Let's see. We got a few up here that I see, and I want to. We got Sean says, Mark C does the deal. Super Dad, Sober Life.
Yeah. That's my sponsor right there.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Um, that's awesome.
Yeah.
As we got him again says, yes, God is great.
All the time.
It's got Amy Lee says our stories are not original. Thank you for sharing. Let's see. We got Allie says single fathers don't get nearly enough recognition, and you're doing the damn thing on top of taking care of yourself and also help others. You're a walking testimony. Amazing. God is great.
Thank you.
Let's see. We got Lauren. She says, hey guys, I'm just jumping in and I saw the title of this video and I just had to share with you that I am 7 months, 16 days clean. And today I just got a state job at the prison as a correction officer. Last year, I couldn't afford a hot dog. For anyone that might be reading this and doubting that we recover, we do recover. God is great and life is beautiful. Congratulations, Lauren, on that state job. Good luck with that. That's awesome, man. We do recover. Let's see. And we have let me go back up here. There's somebody else that was up here. I was talking about they have 44 days at a place. I just want to shout them out. I have to. We got April real quick. She said, this is an amazing man and an even better father. Proud of you, Mark. Continue thriving. Love you.
Thank you.
Let's see. Where is it at? So many comments. All right. Well, I guess I'm not going to find it. Well, that sucks.
More technical difficulties.
It's in here, man. There's just so many trying to get through them. But he pretty much said that he has 44 days today, which is awesome. He's in, I think he's in Phoenix House. So congratulations. Oh, there it is. I found it. Thank God. At the Phoenix House Rehab, 44 days clean. And if I can do it, everyone can. Congratulations, Hank. That's awesome. So yeah. All right, man. Well, hey, I just want to say, man, thank you so much for coming on here and sharing your story, man, of hope. And I hope you enjoyed yourself. I hope you had fun.
I did. I always do. I love telling it.
Great, man. And guys, I put the sign up sheet in the comments. If you guys want to sign up, please fill it out. We do have a little bit of a wait, but not much. It's not that bad. And we also have people come on for Sunday nights as well for our topics with all of us, the whole gang. And so we are going to do that this Sunday. So come check us out Sunday, 8 p.m. live right here on the Hope Shot. I'll see you then. Good night.
Thanks.
See you, Mark.